running a sustainable business. First, I think I was at Xerox for, I've been at Xerox for 32 years now. When I took over, I was about 23 years with the company. And I do think that, you have that tendency to know the answers, know the history, been there, done that. And anybody who knows me, some of my Xerox colleagues are here tonight, would say I've never met a decision that I didn't like. So you can really jump into things quickly, make decisions. And fortunately, I got slowed down. And we really listened and looked. I actually traveled the world for 90 days just listening to the problems through the eyes of our customers and our employees and our investors. And I have to say that a lot of the problems were masking fundamental issues in the business, and we were trying to put out fires without, quite frankly, identifying what the fuel leak was that was causing the fire. So taking the time to really understand the issues in a company is so hugely important. I think lots of companies spend a lot of time addressing symptoms and really not addressing the underlying issues they have. Next is about communications, and somebody told me when I came into the job that when things are good, you should really talk about what needs to be done. When things are not good, you should assure people that they'll get better. And one of the toughest parts of my job is that you really couldn't talk about how worried you were. It wasn't a confidence builder to share kind of those wake up in the middle of the night moments like, are we going to survive? But I have to say, with our people and in public, I was very candid about the issues. I think a level of transparency with regard to the problems that you have is becoming more important by the day. And then an ability to talk about what will be done to overcome them certainly is the other part of the communication strategy. But the days of trying to not be upfront and totally honest about a set of issues that a company has are gone. There are no ways to have separate communications with different constituencies. What you say is both external and internal, and it's really important that it has that ring of integrity for all of your constituencies. And interestingly enough, when people ask me how we made a lot of progress, I think they expect, some fairly brilliant answers, but I think the strategy can be roughly right, and the planning and execution can be roughly right, but you got to have people aligned around a common set of objectives. It is the only advantage of being a big company, is the scale of belief of people that actually believe where you're headed and work in unison to actually meet some objectives. Without that, it is really a disadvantage being big. And clearly that was the single most important thing for our company to make as much progress as we did. The next thing is about crisis, and it truly is that it is true that crisis is the powerful motivator, and it certainly enables you to do things that you probably should have been doing all along. Some famous person said nothing focuses the mind like the sight of the gallows, and I think it's really true. And one of the things that we decided to do was to be bold. And if we had talked about billions of dollars of cost out for competitiveness, I think it would have caused anarchy in the place. It would have been met with a ton of resistance. But in this case, if you're transparent about the size of the problems and what has to be done, you bring people along with you, they kind of get it, and they give you permission to be bold. And that window does close. So moving quickly and moving decisively, even making some mistakes along the way, is much more important than being as thoughtful and perfect and taking time you don't have to perhaps putting that perfect solution in place. And I think the lesson that we learned is that we took a lot of cost out of the business without harming the core business. In many ways, it strengthened it by taking waste out and getting rid of bureaucracy and helping us with clock speed. So it's the type of thing we should have been doing without a crisis, doing systemically, kind of identifying the places where we got a little sloppy or a little bit had too much cost or expense. And we've been working hard to keep up that kind of intensity, even as the business has gotten healthier with no perceived crisis. And I think we were talking about it earlier. One of the things that you're going to see now is that there's kind of this crisis umbrella happening right now throughout not just financial services, but throughout the business industry. And I think it is going to for a lot of restructuring and a lot of get fit kind of activities that companies will be doing over the next few months. So next is about business fundamentals, and I have to tell you, when you're in the midst of a fairly complicated crisis, you're dying for somebody to come in with some brilliant ideas or quick fixes or ways to kind of straighten the place out. And I had an experience that was written about once, but looking for funding for the company, I called Warren Buffett, and he invited me out to Omaha, and I had dinner with him, and I was explaining, how I was trying to unpeel this crisis and what had created this crisis in terms of the complexity of the business. And at the time, I was acting CFO and CEO, and he said to me, here's the deal. You ought to be able to look at your revenues and identify your expenses and costs and pretty much subtract them, and that's the money you should be making. When it's not that simple, you got a problem. And I have to tell you, I took it to heart, and we simplified our business. We undid all the complexity, all the engineering, so that there was this incredible logic about revenues and cost and expense and profits that we hadn't seen in a long time in our business. But a lot of it's about fundamentals of the business, strengthening fundamentals, discipline and controls. We're a big Lean Six Sigma company, and it's all about just having the discipline to constantly be focused on productivity improvement. It's like managing cash, managing inventory, managing receivables. We really went back to basics, and I think it made it refreshingly clear for the people who were turning the business around. The next is using good times to change, and I think that's the tougher part. When you're in good times, the need for companies, technology companies certainly especially, to keep moving, to be adaptable, to keep changing, to keep, quite frankly, understanding that the competitive forces, the price curves, all the things that happen in our business require a constant state of rethinking, restructuring, reinventing, and not waiting until that crisis. And that truly is when you have the luxury of time to actually do it in a way that's thoughtful and a little bit easier on the people as well. The next area is something that's kind of counterintuitive, but I kind of call it following your instincts. In many ways, I watch a lot of companies, Xerox having been one of them during the quality era, to get so burdened down with kind of consensus-making decision and fact-based kind of quality movements, and that at the end of the day, there's a little bit of an abdication of management responsibility to use your experience to make decisions, because sometimes instincts do play. And I remember when I first took over, we had matrixed the company. We managed by industry, we managed by product, we managed by geography. We had like a 5-dimensional matrix in terms of how the company was managed. And each step of it was logical, I think authored by consultants that we spent a lot of money on over the years. And I looked at it, and I couldn't find anybody who really felt accountable for anything in the company. And these debates about matrixed organizations go on all the time. And I think it's far less important the choice you make than making a choice for clear accountability. So we made a choice. Geographies are our P&L centers. That's it. We have global product divisions. We do lots of things on a global basis. We have global processes. But at the end of the day, when I want to know what's happening in Europe, I call the guy that manages Europe, not the industry guy sitting someplace else or the product guy in Rochester, New York. I call the guy sitting there with the people on the ground. That's where the accountability is. It's not perfect, but it's clear. And I have to tell you, it enabled us to move quickly and efficiently to kind of fix the issues with clear accountability.